I just want to touch on something you said.
Yes.
That the Judaism of Israelis is all about Zionism. And I think this is true in America too, because so many American Jews who are secular draw their identity from their connection to Israel. And we see a lot of that falling apart now as more and more Jewish Americans are realizing and seeing what is happening in Gaza, and there's a crisis of identity. And I know that for myself, and growing up as a secular Zionist Jewish person, Israel was everything. And we hold on, I eventually was able to let go, but we hold on to the mythology of Zionism. To a point where because if we let go, our identity now is in crisis. And I went through that crisis when I realized that I had to reject Zionism and had to find out who I was and how do I fit in all of this? Because unlike you, of course, the Jewish faith was not part of my life. Judaism for me was the nationalism. And it gets to a whole another level, because a good Israeli Jew, a good Zionist Jew, who is secular mostly, hates two kinds of people. And I remember this very vividly. You hate the Arabs because they're Arabs and you look down at them. And you hate the ultra-Orthodox community because they are backward and they are, and they reject the state and they reject Zionism. And so we must be the real Jews. They are just this old-fashioned, archaic kind of interpretation of Judaism, which has no place in this world. That is how strong it is when you grow up as an Israeli Jew. And I feel very strongly, too, that this is true here in America, too, with Zionist, secular Zionist Jewish people. So I think you touched on a really, really important point. This crisis of identity and the fear of losing that identity is a large part of why they hold on to the Zionist narrative. Even as we see tens of thousands of bodies piling up, they still hold on to it with dear life and won't admit that this is not just wrong, but a horrible crime.
Yes, right. But this is only one tool being used to manipulate the minds of the masses of the Jewish people. There is so much more propaganda being used. So many Jewish people believe Zionist propaganda that Jews are in danger. And the Arabs, the Palestinians will kill us all, and we have to fight back. There's no other choice. And this legitimizes each and every crime to the far extent, with no limits, with nothing, which is also part of false propaganda. Whoever knows a little bit more.
And I think I want to interrupt you one more time, because you touch on it as something I wanted to bring up later, but I think I'll bring it up now because of what you said. There's an extension of the threat from the Holocaust to the Palestinians. This is part of the Zionist narrative, and it's a very, very strong part of Zionist education, connecting the Palestinian threat, quote unquote, with the Holocaust. Now, the community that you come from, including you yourself, are descendants of Holocaust survivors, yet you reject Zionism. Can you elaborate on that? Can you explain that? So not only are you an observant Jewish community, like I said, the most observant Jewish community on earth, but your particular community, the Satmar community, are Hungarians, if I'm not mistaken, and are descendants of Holocaust survivors, yet you reject Zionism and you reject this entire idea that somehow the Palestinians present this kind of a threat. So please go on, but if you can elaborate on that.
Yes, this is very important, but we'll have to come back to our theological discussion, but we'll come back to that later. This question you're asking, with all due respect, doesn't even start. There's no question here. There's no question why Hungarian Jews or traditional religious Jews should oppose Zionism despite what happened in the Holocaust. You have to be Zionist to believe that the state of Israel or the philosophy of Zionism is a solution to the problem of the Holocaust, and which all of this is totally wrong. The movement of Zionism. Well, yes, Jewish people suffered enormously in the Holocaust. It was, as you said, it was our families, it was our communities. The suffering in Palestine, the suffering in the Holocaust was terrible. But in no way should this or can this justify any oppression of other people, any crimes being committed to other people. And we, as Jewish people, because we know what suffering is, we cannot stand and we cannot tolerate to see similar acts being done to others. That's number one. Number two, despite what happened in the Holocaust, if we want to find a solution, if we want to find safety and security for the Jewish people, we come from religious communities. We are following the religion of our great-grandparents going back 3,000 years. We give our lives for our religion, and we would never stray from it, and we would never give up God and his religion. In each and every step of our way, in our life, we would never do something, or we should never do something, which is forbidden according to Judaism. Now, if the Holocaust was a tragedy, and it was, And if people would like to see safety and security for the Jewish people, that's a perfect and excellent concern. And Jewish people should be concerned of the well-being of the Jewish people, and non-Jewish people should, because each and every human being should be concerned of all humanity. But we as Jewish people should not take a step which is forbidden according to Judaism, even if it's not harming anyone. Now, again, it happens to be that this is harming an entire people, but even if it wouldn't, as Jewish people, if it's forbidden according to Judaism, and we'll come to that point in a minute, we would never accept that. And I have to add that this whole notion that Israel is the safety and security for the Jewish people is wrong. It happens to be that the state of Israel or the movement of Zionism is causing so much death and destruction, hatred and danger to the Jewish people, not only in the Holy Land, not only in the Middle East, but in so many other parts of the world. We in the United States of America face hatred. ADL complains that there is anti-Semitism in the United States. It's on the rise. I'm not saying that there is no incidence of anti-Semitism, but at least what I'm aware of the last couple of years is just because of what is happening in Palestine. Let me tell you, there was an incident a couple of weeks ago after October 7th, and it's famous. It was well reported in the United States. There was a incident in Los Angeles where a Jewish person was killed by a pro-Palestinian demonstrator. Now, there was all different types of reporting regarding that story. At least what I saw and what I listened to is that there was that Jewish person walking on the street, and there was a pro-Palestinian protester attacking him with a megaphone. He was injured. A day later, he died. Then Yair Lapid from Israel was reported on NBC saying that this incident had nothing to do with what is going on in Gaza after October 7th. This was purely anti-Semitism. Now, do your research for yourself. This is everything available online. There are videos showing exactly what happened. Now, again, I'm not condoning any reaction. I'm not condoning any violence. I'm not condoning any crimes. I'm not condoning anything. I'm just presenting to you facts. There was an Israeli demonstration across the street of a pro-Palestinian demonstration. It was the Israeli protester wearing an Israeli flag, coming over to the pro-Palestinian rally, antagonizing. I'm not condoning anything. But saying that this has nothing to do with what's going on in Gaza, this was pure anti-Semitism, I want to use a polite word, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And unfortunately, people in the United States believe, that Israel is here for the safety and security of the Jewish people. Palestinian people is the greatest danger for Jews and maybe even for the world. And there's no other alternative for Jews to be saved, even in the United States. And people say it in the United States. And people approach me by saying, I can go out on a demonstration, and a Zionist person will come over to me and say, you wouldn't be able to exist in the United States if there wouldn't be a state of Israel. And people truly believe this. And what I want to say is that this is a great danger to the Jewish people. Jewish people lived in Palestine and many other Muslim countries, and there is so much to speak about this, why Jewish people left these Muslim countries. There's a lot to speak about this, but Jewish people lived in peace, and unfortunately, we are seeing today disasters going on. We see so many loss of Jewish lives in addition to all other people who are in a terrible catastrophe. And this is catastrophic for the Jewish people as well.
There's a book that I was given in Jerusalem by Rabbi Hirsch, actually, about it's the teachings of Reb Amram.
Yes.
Who was a very famous Turkarta leader and activist, and he drove the Zionists crazy. I even remember his name growing up, but he was like this, a threat and somebody that people talked about. And in this book, which is in Hebrew, he's interviewed by one of his students, by a young Jewish student. And at one point, he asks the Reb Amram, "What would you do if you were in charge today?" And the first thing he said was, "The first thing I will do is I will ask the Arabs to come back." And the student says, "What are you talking about? They're terrorists. They want to kill us. They'll throw us into the ocean." And Reb Amram's response is, "Who told you this nonsense? We lived in Hebron in peace. We lived in Jerusalem in peace. We lived in Palestine and other countries. We lived well together. We babysat each other's children. We took care of each other. We share so much. We have so much in common. It's only when the Zionists came that the violence and the problems began." And I think it's an important message for people to hear, because the Zionists are pushing forward a completely different narrative, and so I think it's really refreshing to hear.